WMEG Radio.
What happens when truth doesn't matter anymore?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Outsiders. My co-host, superstar Doc Cheatham, is actually on location today. He is with us via phone, so he will be joining in the show as well. And we have in studio our special in-studio guest. And this guy, he's been there, did that, and done that. Former Baltimore City Councilman Carl Stokes. Brother Stokes, how you doing? It is great to have you here. And I contacted you, and I'm going to tell people, this is one of the most professional, nicest guys. Really. When I called out of nowhere, I can hear the surprise in your voice. And class act, Carl Stokes, is again our in-studio guest, the councilman for the 12th and 2nd District.
That's true.
Baltimore City, and one of the, I guess, founding members of the new Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners that came along after you left, and I believe that was in '95.
Yes, it was in '95. That's when the city actually gave up some of its rights to the school system to the state.
Okay.
And then there was this merger of city and state, and at that time the old school board was abolished, and then the mayor at the time, Kurt Schmoke, and the governor at that time, Paris Glendenning, jointly appointed 9 new members of the school.
Including yourself.
Including myself, the first boy, yes.
Fantastic. And also, I digress, but I have to mention your Jemison STEM Academy. That was a public charter school?
Right, Blueford Drew Jemison, yes.
Okay. So we've got Brother Carl here in studio, and we're going to be going over with him just in a little bit the school system in Baltimore City and his suggestions and what he thinks, and his analysis of what's going on with the Baltimore City public school system. And we're also, because this is going to be a jam-packed...
Sorry about that.
Hey, brother. Hey, Doc, Superstar Doc, you there?
Sorry about that. Boss says, no, I got a big event today in my park and playground in the 1500 block of McKean, and we're trying to get 12 communities to get food markets back. And unfortunately, my good chairman, Sharon Blackman, want to pray for her. She's in California right now. Her brother's had a major stroke. So everything falls on me. So I think you got a better replacement than me. I think Carl will do even better.
Yeah, and he comes in studio. He comes in studio and I'm going, okay, this is a big guy. What, do you play football or something, Carl? We did a little photo of him. This is a big guy. He's not a little guy. He's not a little skinny, scraggly little man. What, you play linebacker or what, bro?
I weigh too much.
Stop. It looks like he hits the gym every now and then. I can see. But what's going on in the news? You've got Elon Musk's spaceships blowing up. And
They thought that was a success.
oh my goodness, yeah, it was a success. It was a successful explosion. That would have been great for 4th of July. But gas prices starting to go up. I'm filling the tank up going, oh my goodness, here we go with this. And BG shutting off people's home power, including the power of God's people in the form of a church. So that's going on. And I hear there's some scuttlebutt about spies being inserted in places of worship. Now, the outsider's going to take a look at that. It's just prior to coming on, preparing the show, I saw a little news on that, and I got to look at it first to see what's going on. And of course, let's not forget the Baltimore City school system failing the kids, and we'll go over that as well. The mayor, and I know everyone who listens to The Outsiders, who watch us on Facebook, on YouTube, and they have been on the edge of their seats waiting for this Saturday at 11 o'clock for The Outsiders to give their analysis of this speech, State of the City speech, which was given in a fitness center. I hear that the mayor's next State of the City address will be at a Planet Fitness, probably Mondawmin, Mall. Worst audio. I mean, the audio was horrific. It was hard to just get up. I'll be going over that, and the folding chairs and the so-called city elite were there, sitting in their folding chairs in an echo chamber, because the audio again was terrible. Real class act, State of the City address. I'm being facetious, okay? Look, I'm just going to say this. I'm going over my notes and looking through this with this fitness center he gave the speech, and the outsiders, we're going to give our expertise. And like I said, I know you've been waiting all week. Now, let's look at something real quick. When you give a State of the Union address, the president is at the Capitol building, right? I mean, at the Capitol building, it's, you know, the decor, it's where it should be. And then the state of the state, the governors in the states are where? At the Capitol building with the legislature. This is how things are done properly. This State of the City, which is normally at, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, it's normally at City Hall?
It's normally at City Hall. It's in the council chamber normally.
Okay, the council chamber at City Hall, but for whatever reason, I did hear he built a new center, or there was a new center built, so he wanted to have it there. So if the president builds a new bridge, is he going to have a State of the Union at the bridge that he built? You know, I mean, I digress. I don't know what that's about, but I guess it was more of the way I heard the speech and analyzing it, it was more of a holistic type of feeling. And I guess the place he was delivering it, because it was a fitness center. And yours truly, I know a lot about gyms and fitness centers. I've been training for almost 40 years. I used to compete. I played sports since I was 9 years old. So I know a lot about fitness centers and gyms. But I never would have advised to give a State of the City address in a fitness center. I'm sorry. I just don't agree with that. And one of my main concerns wasn't if you watch the speech, I mean, hearing it is one thing, but if you watched it, the arm flailing that went on, it's the arm flailing, the horrible sound system, the echo chamber effect, the head bobbing, and I was saying to myself, wait a tick. I just have to ask this question first. Who is the mayor's handler or advisor? I'm curious to know that. I'm going to ask and find that out. He sounds well, let's say, he sounds unpolished in it. He talks, and I'm being nice. I could use other words, but I'll be nice. And the hand movements and the flailing, for a while I thought he was going to try to take off and fly away, but I didn't know what was going on. One of my main concerns, let me get back on point, okay? One of my main concerns was the numbers which he was spewing out and has been doing so for some time now. And I was in the finance and mortgage industry. I have a business degree, Coppin State. Right, Doc? Coppin alumnus?
His call dropped.
He dropped, but he'll be back. Coppin State, business degree. I was in mortgages and finances for over 20 years. I handled the contracts and the business with my grandfather's ministries, and for years I was on the church finance committee. I can go on and on and on. I know what I'm talking about. So I take a look at these numbers, and what Slim Shady is cooking with these homicide numbers and his programs. But before I get into that, first you've got to hear this. Rock, could you go to the clip one, cut one, please?
Because we have to address violence at every level. But for far too long, the argument has been that we either arrest our way out of it and drive mass incarceration or drive investment into our communities. Baltimore is elected me because we were approaching public safety in a way that was not producing results. As someone who has lost guns, first gun violence, and led the 300 in March movement, I reject this as a false choice. As your mayor, I have chosen to both invest in law enforcement and in our communities. And newsflash, it's working. When I launched Baltimore's comprehensive violence prevention plan, I promised to reduce homicides and non-fatal shootings by 15%. Make no mistake about it. This is my top priority. And thanks to 2 years of hard work and the tireless efforts of our police officers, violence control officers, public safety partners, and the community, homicides and non-fatal shootings are down 16 and 21% respectively today. When I launched Baltimore's comprehensive violence prevention plan, I promised to reduce homicides and non-fatal shootings by 15%.
Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott, I will aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year in my term. Homicides by 15% each year in my term, leaving us below 300 homicides in my first year.
Okay, now I picked that up. That popped up on the radar. And what I did is I sent an email to Brandon Scott, to the mayor, and to his communication personnel. Carbon copied some folks as well. This is the email. I want to read that. Carl, you got to hear this. Okay. To Mayor Brandon Scott, we have reviewed your State of the City address, and we have to say that there are some serious concerns that we have with portions of your speech. One concern surrounds the statement made by you in which you said, quote, I promise to reduce homicides and non-fatal shootings by 15%. This is not what you promised. You promised during your campaign run, because people during their campaign run, they'll say all kinds of things. During your campaign run for mayor in 2020, that you would aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year of your term, getting Baltimore City below 300 homicides in your first year. Did you intentionally leave that part out of your speech? And we looked at the numbers, and they don't add up to the picture painted in your speech. Now, I'm going to go over this real quickly. 2020 homicides were 335. 2021 homicides, first year in office, there was a 15% reduction campaign promise, which when he said that would reduce the homicide rate to below 300, he was correct on that, because the homicide rate, 15% of 335 is 285. That's the campaign promise. The actual homicide rate in 2021 was 334. That's a difference of plus 49 homicides. Now, that's a 0% reduction, folks, for the first year. He promised 15. Let's go to 2022 quickly. Homicides, the second year in office. Again, he promised each year of his term there would be a 15% reduction. So a 15% reduction with a campaign promise would be 242. The actual reduction was 1.5%, not 1.5%, because the homicide rate in 2022 was 329. a difference of plus 87 homicides. Now, we're in 2023 now, and his projected 15% reduction campaign promise, because it's each year, the homicides for 2023 should be 206. That is the number. That is the bar. That is the bar, folks, per his campaign promise. Actual for the year, TBD, to be determined. And these are the true numbers, and the programs are failing Baltimore City, and your campaign promise. I don't know, Carl, what do you think of that?
Of the campaign promise?
Yes, the campaign promise.
Well, obviously, as you just stated, he's not making those numbers. The city, obviously, the numbers are actually 1 year higher than the previous year. So, whatever the plan is, it's not, either it hasn't kicked in or it's simply not working as we speak.
Well, it don't have to be a serious jumpstart kick-in, because if you're talking 15 each year and you're putting up those numbers, to me, this is what it looks like. I was in sales and finance for a lot of years, and to me, it looks like a bait and switch. You promise 15%, you say in your speech that it's 15%, and then there's a period at the end in the State of the City speech. But he did not give you the other part of his promise. The other part of the promise was each year of my term. So that's 15, last time, basic math. 15 plus 15 plus 15 is 45%.
Right.
So we got to go with a 45% reduction off of 335, and that's going to bring us, if you're reducing it 15% each year, 206. The year 2023, the homicide rate should be 206. Any of the other numbers you're throwing out, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean Western District down here, we're going to move Monty out here. I sent a letter to the Commissioner, Michael Harrison, and I asked him about the deployment, because you can pad your numbers by deploying more police officers in the area that Monty's concentrating on. I mean, that sort of thing. Do you know that sort of thing happening with the police department? Maybe they want to get crime down a little bit lower in certain areas, so they deploy a little bit more.
Right, I think, and I'm not totally familiar with it, but I think Monty's is not about quote-unquote policing or numbers, but is actually about interacting and trying to prevent crime.
Exactly.
I think that's their strategy is, so I think their strategy is not about how many more police there are, but how many more interactions, to use their term, that they can have to either prevent crime or to know about it in advance, so that, again, they can prevent it.
Okay, so I understand that concept. You want to be preventing the crime. You want to be proactive to do things in order to basically stop something that could happen.
Right.
By interacting with the community, interacting with those who may be leaning towards that, and I understand that perfectly well. But being, again, in the numbers game and in sales and in finance, the only thing they cared about was numbers. If you didn't get those numbers,
right,
you're gone.
No, I'm
the private sector?
I'm familiar with that. I'm just saying I'm not totally familiar with their plan or their implementation of the plan, so I'm not the best guy to speak to that. But I think their plan is exactly what we just talked about, to figure out how to interact and to either, quote, stop the crime, prevent the crime, or talk people out of committing the crime itself.
No, exactly. The outsiders are gonna keep our eye on this, but we're gonna make sure that the mayor knows that as far as the outsiders are concerned and the citizens who I've spoken to about this, and they agreed. They said, you're correct. The number should be 206 if that's the promise. If the Monty program, if they kickstart it or get it or spread it out enough where more communities have that program as opposed to the Western District or whatever district they're working in, let's see how effective that'll be. And the mayor was quite magnanimous in his speech towards the people of Baltimore regarding trash and recycle pickup. Rock, could you cut to, please?
There's been a lot said about recycling pickup in Baltimore. to weekly recycling by quarter 1 of 2024.
Okay, 2024. The trash, the city, whew, I mean, you've got a city that's really bad with this trash recycle, the mayor, the way he's doing things. The charter does read that the trash and recycle pickup should be each week. And he seemed to forgot that there, I believe, are 2 lawsuits that are pending in regards to this issue. So he seemed to just completely skip over that. Carl, I don't want to spend any more time, but go ahead, give your opinion, please.
Well, certainly there is quite a bit of debris, trash, sanitation issues in our city with the abandoned properties and some neighborhoods that just aren't taking care of their neighborhoods. And there is a great hue and cry among a certain segment of the city about recycling, etc. And it's been quite a while since that's been disrupted, since right around the pandemic. And so when the mayor speaks of getting it back on track on a weekly basis by the first quarter, about a year from now, in 2024, by the first quarter. So again, the same folk are saying we need something better sooner. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out in the next several months. Whether there's going to be increased pressure on the mayor's administration to move that date up. But of course, the administration is saying they don't have the personnel to effect this. Again, I'm no longer an insider. I'm outsider.
Oh, sure, right. Come on, Carl. You know you get some inside information. Come on.
I get a little bit,
okay,
brother, but I'm not that close intentionally.
I understand.
I'm intentionally trying to enjoy life without being questioned about whether or not something that people still say to me, you guys aren't doing this, and I'm like,
I'm not even there anymore.
Who's you guys? I'm not a you guy anymore. But so yes, there is a great consternation among some neighborhoods who are trying to clean up. So it's not like everybody's not doing their part. There are citizens who are actually trying to stay ahead of this, but then they're frustrated because their trash, their recyclables sit outside in their bins for weeks before it's removed.
I think that considering the fact that the mayor had $641 million sitting there and decided to get in the pocket $15 million of that money to nonprofits who, well, one of the nonprofits, Lazarus Wright, the guy who owns that, he's a trucker, and he's not, he's not trained and licensed or has a background in cleaning. And he's got guys out there, and as far as I know, uninsured, and picking up biohazards and that sort of thing. And I did send Dr. Zarasa an email regarding that issue, but it looks like she's going to bounce from that position as a health commissioner, and now she's got another position coming up. How convenient! That's the only Letitia. How convenient. Well, the outsiders will be taking a look at that trash and recycle issue. We're going to keep on that. But I want to get to the person who's an expert and what he's really here to talk about. And that is the Baltimore City school system, which is at a crossroads, and we need to get more involved with what's going on and more informed to take action. And I'm just going to read real quick. Baltimore City Schools. Now, this is CNN. These are headlines. CNN. Baltimore City Schools won't hold back students with failing grades. This is CBS. More than 12,500 grades changed from failing to passing at Baltimore high schools over a several-year span. Washington Examiner. Baltimore City Schools deserve an F when it comes to educating their students. And WMAR, ABC, attorney Ben Crump joins a lawsuit against Baltimore City Public School System, filed by plaintiffs Giovanni and Shonda Patterson, and Giovanni was on our show a few weeks back, and he did let us know, the outsiders know, that they were in the discovery.
Right. So I think what we have, excuse me, certainly we do have the parents' suit, and which Ben Crump is general counsel for, or lead counsel rather, for this, and Giovanni and others are very much involved in. And you know, this is something, frankly, that I thought about many years ago, several years ago, that the parents of Baltimore City Public School students should sue the school system and city government and state government because the students are not being educated, and you know, there's probably an 85% non-proficiency. That means that 85% of Baltimore City's public school children are not at grade level. And in fact, because I ran two schools, I knew that most of them are not simply at grade level. They're 3 or 4 grades below grade level. We had two schools that started 6th grade, 6th to 8th grade. And so these young boys would come to our school, our 6th grade, and they couldn't read above kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade levels.
And
they're coming to the
graders?
6th grade. And so it obviously it would take quite a bit to catch up, and we did. Most of our kids caught up in 2 years, but that was intense in the fact that we had an after-school program that we didn't call after school. It was a mandatory program. Our school operated from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We fed them breakfast, lunch, snack, and a dinner.
Oh, okay.
So they were there all day, and they were in school on Saturdays from 9 to noon, I think it was. So we had 3 or 4 hours on Saturday. Again, we fed them both breakfast and lunch, but they had to come to school on Saturday, and we had a 12-month school year. And of course, folks said that the boys, the youth, and the parents would not tolerate having to go to school 12 hours a day and 6 days a week. But of course they did. They did because we said they have to go, and
exactly.
They enjoyed school. I know that might sound upside down, but they did enjoy
the way your program was
right. They enjoyed
operating,
the nurturing. They enjoyed the camaraderie. You know, people would tell us that you're not going to beat the parents, you're not going to beat the neighborhood. Well, in fact, the school was their neighborhood. So our kids came from all over the city, and the fact that they melded so greatly was in just the fact that we had caring black men and women who, and there were non-black men and women also who were part of the program, but taking the lead with black men and women.
Okay.
And it was an all-male administration, black male administration. But second program, we did have a wonderful black woman who was our principal at the second school, and it all gelled. It all went together because the boys were brothers with each other and loved helping one another. We didn't have to tell our students to support one another. They would ask Mr. Stokes, can I help Mark, who's a little slow in math, with his math? Can I help him with math? And by the way, I need somebody to help me with English. Can you find another student to help me with English? The point of what I'm saying here is that we can educate our children. The Baltimore City Public School System does not educate, for the most part, our children. And they don't want to. They don't want to. Now, that's what people don't understand. People often say, you know, it's a hard population, they're poor, they're bad, they're undisciplined. It's all nonsense.
Yes.
It's all nonsense.
It's excuses.
The kids are as intelligent as any other child at birth. There's no question about that. They're as intelligent as any other child, and certainly our black kids, if you put a computer, or which is, you know, also a phone, if you give that to them at 3 years old, they will figure it out without you telling them how to figure it out. I've seen it. I've seen kids sit down at a computer and go away and come back in a few hours, and they're first of all watching things they shouldn't be watching, but we get that worked out. And I'm being a little facetious, but my point is that black kids, poor kids, are as intelligent as any other kid next to them. As intelligent. Now, the later life is, are they as educated? Now, that's a different question.
There you go.
That's
the key.
question.
Are they as educated?
Are they as educated? And how do they use that education? And in Baltimore City, now people will say it's happening around the country, and it is, but we're concerned about Baltimore City. It is the difference between kids growing up and being able to take care of themselves for life, being able to gain employment, being able to take care of themselves and their families, and not being caught up in a life of things that will ruin their lives. And so Baltimore City does not educate its children, and it does not educate their children intentionally. And there are folk at North Avenue, the headquarters, who take their paychecks every 2 weeks and have no feelings of guilt. It's amazing to me that black people could do this to black children. It's amazing to me that black people will intentionally not educate our own children. It's amazing. I don't find any other culture, and I can talk about the Jewish culture, who send their kids to Hebrew school every week, even though they may go to the public school, or to the Greek community, who send their kids to Greek school every week. Every week, the children have to go to the school of their culture, because they know they can't depend on the general melting pot, so to speak, of America to educate their children in their own culture.
Let me ask you a question, Carl. I don't mean to interrupt you, because you've got a lot of really good information, and I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. You're right on point. And we're with Carl Stokes, former councilman, 12th and 2nd District, Brother Carl Stokes, on the Outsiders, and we're talking about the Baltimore City public school system. Now, what had happened not too long ago with this Baltimore collegiate school, where they were trying to take them out?
Yes,
what happened there?
Another black run male school for boys, for black boys. It's for all boys, but predominantly their population was African American and poor, and so. And doing a good job of the young men coming to school in ties and jackets and saying yes sir, no ma'am, and the nurturing that took place with these young people, so they changed their habits into positive as opposed to negative. And the city school system, as they did in our case of Bluefield Jemison and Banneker Blake, tried to close that school to say, well, I'll tell you what's going on when that happens. It's because the school is not following 100% the rules and regulations and policies and nonsense of school administration. They're trying to educate students, and they're trying to nurture students and try to make sure that these kids are going to go from non-proficiency to proficiency and have decent lives. And the school system often gets in the way of that. For example, they're trying to flip numbers. When I tell you that most of the kids come not reading above 3rd grade level to the 6th grade, and the school knows that those kids should not be moved to the 7th and 8th grade until they are proficient enough to move to those next grades.
But they move them.
The system tells them, orders them, demands of them that they promote those kids who should not have come to their school to begin with 3 and 4 grades below proficiency. They should never have come to the 6th grade.
How did it get to that point where the school system has the ability, I mean, it's the audacity to do it, but how do they get to the point where they can do it and get away with it? How do we stop them from getting away with it?
Well, I think that as parents, and not just as parents, but just as citizens, we shut that down. I'm amazed, without trying to put people at fault, I'm amazed of how little, and I'm going to say it, the black community cares about their own children. I'm amazed at it.
Yeah, that is kind of
We
scary.
should shut this crap down. We should demand of our public elected officials and the school system that they fix this forthwith. That we should not continue to not teach our children, to not educate our children. It is too important to our own lives to do this. Now, there are some of us, black folk, who can simply move, who can leave the city,
escape Baltimore,
and get out. And you know, the number one population who's leaving Baltimore City are black people with children who are making a decent enough dollar that they can leave the city.
And taking their tax money with them.
Yeah, they're taking everything with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you look at the rolls of the city, and we're losing 600 people a month. 600 people a month.
Wow.
Is the number of people who are leaving Baltimore City. And the biggest number of that 600 a month are African Americans with children who will not send their children to the Baltimore City public schools. And so they also don't have enough money to go to Gilman or Bryn Mawr. They don't have that kind of money. So their solution is to leave Baltimore City and move to Anne Arundel, move to Howard County, move to some parts of Baltimore County where they can put their children into a free public school and get an education for their kids.
Well, with your template that you were using, was it efficient? Did it work?
It worked excellently.
Okay.
Our first school, within 2 years, met all the standards of the federal government and the state government. Within 2 years. Our second school, the city, North Avenue, did an evaluation of our school and came back and in the evaluation said that your school is in the 85th percentile of similar schools in the city, meaning that there were only 15% of the Baltimore City public schools that were middle schools such as ours that were stronger than we were academically.
Okay.
That we were above 85% of the other schools academically.
So you're a top notch. You're
yes,
at the top
we were
level.
top 15% of schools.
Okay, well, see, where I come from and the way I was trained, I look at what works.
Right.
Okay, I don't care about, all the other nonsense or trifles. I'm focused on what works. Does this work?
Yes.
Or it doesn't work? That's it. Now, like you said earlier, yes, it's the school system is purposely doing this to the students, and they're hurting the students.
Sure.
On purpose. This is being done. This woman's getting almost $500,000. Sandalisa's our Barracuda of the month for February. She's getting almost $500,000 in salary and perks and awards, and she should have been fired years ago. She was in the corporate world. They would have canned her as well as Brandon Scott. So what's going on? I agree. People, students specifically, they should be taught how to fish so that they can fish instead of being taught how to just simply receive fish from a third party and just sit there and just take the fish. No, you should be taught how to fish so you can be independent.
That's right. Obviously, as you said, Sean, people should be taught how to fish, not simply fed the fish, because, it simply is a case of keeping you under submission. The person who's giving you the fish wants to dominate you, wants to tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and want you to take care of them as opposed to your being able to take care of yourself.
Exactly. What I'm going to do is I want to go to another. This is going to give the people a little bit more information on what's going on, a little insight. And Rock, could you cut 3, please?
Those education advocates in Baltimore are demanding the city school CEO, Dr. Sonia Santelli, resign due to rising crime for education and failed leadership. Part of Baltimore's investigative efforts discovered that 41% of high school students earn a GPA of 1.0 or below. Advocates believe the education system has neglected the students and mismanaged funds. In one case, Tiffany Francis' son, a senior in Baltimore City schools, earned a .13 GPA. No, not a 1.3, a .13 GPA.
More public school.
schools this season have highlighted much bigger questions. Outrage erupted last month after students found themselves in frigid classrooms when heating systems failed in at least 60 schools.
Cold. It's freezing cold. John Gray is a sophomore at Baltimore City College, a selective admissions college prep high school. He says he had seen heating problems before, but nothing like this. So, like, let's say I fail a class, I can go to coach class so I can study up. But if I come to school and there's no heat, I can't really go downstairs and cut the heat on. So it makes students feel like powerless.
We gotta protest and we gotta stand up for our kids as parents.
It's a jam-packed
School up. Well, I agree with you, and you should be angry.
What sparked this heated outpouring? Images that went viral on social media in early January of children bundled in coats, hats, and scarves in aging classrooms, barely warmer than the frigid temperatures outside.
You simply cannot allow children to be punished year after year because their adult leaders are failing.
I was frustrated. I was angry. I was betrayed, misled.
Brian Whitener's 5-year-old daughter, Jemiah, is a pre-K student at Rosemont.
When you parents in this community or in any community wake up in the morning, the first thing they don't want to have to worry about is it safe for my child to go to school inside of the building?
Whitener and other parents.
See, this is just a clip. I could play clip after clip after clip for hours on Baltimore City School, on Dr. Sonia Santelisa's, the failing superintendent who's getting this massive salary and what's going on, and Chris Papps, and part of that clip, Papps had to chase her down because she was running away from him, running away from questions, but I'm going to ask you right out. What do you think of Dr. Sonia Santelisa's performance as a school superintendent?
Well, I was going to say, I don't have to state an opinion. I can state the fact.
Okay.
She's failing the city schools. She's not doing a good job at all by any standard. So you can use any measurement, any stick, any criteria, and the criteria that should be used is whether or not Baltimore City public school children are being educated, and are they proficient? Can they read and write sufficiently? Can they get a diploma and use that diploma to go forward in life, whether it's to go on to college or to get a job or to just function as an adult in the real world? And most of our children might as well be given a blank piece of paper for all the good this certificate that has fancy writing on does them going forward. So just to distill all of what I've just said, she's failing, and again, it's intentional.
I agree.
There's whatever you divide 52 weeks by $500,000, she's getting that every week, every 2 weeks, and they're fine with that.
Taxpayer money.
They're taxpayer money. The very parents of the children that they're failing are paying her salary and others at school headquarters.
That's the nonsense and the craziness that's going on. And I'm going to continue. I cut 4.
Story. The MSPE has changed the way it reports standardized test scores to the public. The change was made after Project Baltimore in February reported that 23 Baltimore City schools had 0 students among those tested who scored proficient in math. To produce that story, we analyzed the original 2022 test results the state posted on its website in January. Those results were removed, and when a revised version was posted in March, many of the results were gone.
Somebody's trying to hide something, and that they know they have a bad situation.
Let's take a look at Johnston Square Elementary in Baltimore City. In the original 2019 spreadsheet, we can see the percentage of students who scored in each proficiency level. But look at this. In the revised version, most of the data are now hidden behind asterisks.
Let's just call it overly creative thinking. Somebody doesn't want you to see that data.
They don't want you to see the data. Well, why wouldn't the Baltimore City public school system want the public, the citizens of Baltimore, and their children to see that data?
Well, actually, it's gotten bigger because now we're talking about the state hiding the data, the state of Maryland, because they and I hate being repetitive, but again, they are failing black children, particularly black poor children in the city of Baltimore. And they're hiding the real data that says that they're failing because they don't want to be held accountable. And that's a huge issue in this Baltimore City school system and some other places. But the unwillingness to be accountable, and who are you accountable to? You should be accountable to the children first, and to their parents, and to the general population, because when we don't educate the children, the society itself is going to crumble, it's going to fall. And certainly Baltimore City, in its crime statistics, in its unemployment statistics, in its poverty, and remember, a third of all black kids in Baltimore City, a third of every black kid in Baltimore is living in poverty, which means their family is living in poverty. And they're going to stay impoverished as long as we refuse to give them what they should have, God-given as well as state-given. The Constitution of Maryland says that the state must do two things. One is to give every child an adequate education. The other is to balance the budget. And generally, we balance the budget every year, as the Constitution says, but we do not give every child an adequate education.
Hence the lawsuit, Ben Crump.
Absolutely. The lawsuit, which is right and justified, and will probably take too long to benefit the students who are currently in the school system.
Well, those lawsuits, they take a little time, and Ben Crump is he gets the job done. He's very thorough.
He is.
And he knows his stuff. So I predict a clock cleaning situation. And I predict from this that there's going to be some type of positive change. I don't know how much.
Yes.
But there's going to be some type of positive change, and hopefully it will be a substantial change. I want to go into quickly. We have a little bit of time left.
Okay.
But there was a situation which happened. I have to talk about. The Outsider said they're going to stay on it. We actually broke the story, okay? And that has to do with BGE after this, I guess, backdoor deal. Slim Shady and the Shady Bunch decided to hand over control of the city's conduit to a corporation, a Power Energy Corporation, and I guess they have become more emboldened to do things like this with cutting the power off from a church. And Rock, could you cut 5, please?
Okay, I'm going to let everyone know this. I'm doing an interview with Pastor Alvin Quinn. This is breaking news. BGE has taken the power, cut the power to this church, and we're just finding out. Pastor, what exactly happened?
What exactly happened is that I started getting these erroneous electric bills. My electric bill like quadruple. According to paying about it, made them lazy to pay it. Of course, you couldn't pay that kind of money. So then they sent a turn off notice and said, you got to pay the whole thing or we're going to shut you off. What? Yes. It's off. You understand? They turn off, I've been thankful beginning. I said, you're going to turn off the power in God's house. I said, this has never happened in recorded history that I know of. Anywhere. You know what? First they overbill me.
it's open on just Sunday and on noonday for Bible study. You know what I mean? It's only open 2 days a week.
Easter was followed by darkness at the Friendship Baptist Church in Northeast Baltimore. As WNER2 News' Jeff Hager reports, that's when the church claims BGE cut off its power over an outstanding bill.
It's not the first time BGE has cut off power to a house, and it won't be the last. But this house is different.
You're chopping God's worship services off. That's what you're doing. You just turn the lights off in God's house. Imagine that.
The Friendship Baptist Church's bill due earlier this month topped $30,000. But Pastor Alvin Gwynn Sr. says that doesn't tell the whole story.
We've been paying the bills, but I'm telling you, only time we get behind is because of the pandemic for 3 years, when the congregation fell off in its attendance, and that's happened all across the country.
In a written statement, the utility says, quote, BGE works with all customers, including Friendship Baptist Church, to help them access various payment options and energy assistance resources. BGE readily admits that disconnections do happen, but it claims they're necessary to keep paying customers from having to pick up the bill for those who don't.
To have our gas and electric cut off, it can affect your life within less than 48 hours.
The power restored, Gwen says BGE wants even more.
And reconnection charge and a deposit, because I'm a new customer. After 34 years on this corner and 80 years in Baltimore City working with BGE, all of a sudden I'm a new customer. Partly.
Now, this Pastor Gwen has been a longtime friend of my family. My grandfather, Pastor Brown, actually helped him to get into the radio ministry years ago, and his sons and I practically grew up together, Jonathan and Alvin Jr., and know them well. And what's going on here, he called me last Saturday, right before I came over. I was supposed to actually have met with him the day before, but something came up, and he called me and told me what was going on. And I'm in shock. It's like, you've got to be kidding. And the statement that, what did he say? Something about picking up the bill for those who don't pay? Why is he even saying that? That doesn't even make any sense to put that. What do you think about this, Carl, this business?
Well, certainly, I don't know the particulars of this particular situation. I do know Dr. Gwen, and like you, I know that Alvin Jr. So we have a situation where all across the city, folks, especially businesses, well, not just businesses, because during the pandemic, all of us was thrown for a loop, and many of us were not able to earn our full salaries, and many of us got behind in our bills, and certainly businesses, churches, etc., got behind. And so I would think that there would be, in some cases, complete forgiveness of some of these bills, giving back people. The economy was just thrown out of kilter, and I would think that there would be complete forgiveness in some cases and forbearance in others, so that accommodations could be made. And so I'm speaking generally because I don't know the particulars of Friendship Baptist Church for this particular case, but certainly BG&E is able, given their reserves, and as a utility, they have a responsibility to the greater community to be supportive. In other words, they can't simply say we're a business and we can pull the plug. They have actually, by having a monopoly in some of these situations,
exactly,
they have a responsibility and an obligation to the greater good.
I believe so as well.
Well, they do. As a utility, they have that obligation. It's just like you simply can't cut off water to people who God-given and by right should have water.
Well, I agree. In a church You're talking about a place of God, of worship with the Christian church. It's a bad look. And I know Pastor Gwen, and let's put it this way. That's one, the Church of God, right. Christians, and especially a man like Pastor Gwen, who's like myself, is that worst person you want to do something like that to. I'm just letting you know. But he and the situation, I'm sure, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I'm sure it's going to be dealt with quite efficiently and in a manner which Pastor Gwen is used to dealing with things. I'll leave it at that. And it's been man, that hour went fast. Wow, did that hour go fast?
It's only 60 minutes.
Always 60 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that hour went quick. We want to thank our special in-studio guest, former councilman, former mayoral candidate as well, Carl Stokes. Brother Stokes, thanks for coming into the Outsiders.
I'm glad to be with you, Sean. This is my first meeting you, actually.
Yes, it is.
And
believe it or not, that's odd that we've never.
That is odd, and I know I know Dr. Brown. I know your family, and I've had some great conversation with members of your family over the years. We've met each other, some of them, on the campaign trail.
Yes.
And so God bless you, man. I'm glad to be with you. You got a great show. I'll be listening more than I have, to be quite frank with you.
Thank you. Let others know.
I got your call. I said, who's this brother calling me? But I return all calls, and not all calls, but some calls I've taken before. I don't return some of those calls, but you called, and I'm glad you did, and thank you.
And I'm going to give you this on air. We're getting ready to go, but on air, I'm going to give you the Oriole hat.
Oh,
the special, yeah, he's a Baltimore guy.
Yeah.
He's a Baltimore, so I'm giving you the Oriole hat.
Thank you.
There we go. And everyone, thanks for listening to The Outsiders and watching us. Let everyone know that others know that The Outsiders, we give the inside information. And God bless. Take care.